Good morning and welcome to Office Hours, the show where we answer your media technical production questions every single week. Dave, let's get right to it.
We start off with Vic Hernandez of Springfield, Missouri today. For those who use the MOTIV Mix app from Shure, what benefit does it provide?
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, so the MOTIV Mix is kind of the control center for the digital mix. Let me see if I have some. I have this Shure MV7 Plus here. This is one of the USB mics. They have MV7. They have even one without USB. And they have MV6, which I have somewhere in the back here. And the app is actually controlling the internal settings of the built-in audio card or sound card functionality of these USB microphones. Functionality. It includes also a DSP on some of them. And the way we use that app is to preset the DSP settings, the signal level, all the processing, and disable the mute button before we send these microphones out to our clients for use. And then they just have to plug it in, and everything we have set in those settings will be stored inside the microphone itself. On that note, I have to say, I feel that the app from Shure is a little bit unstable. It could be due to upgrading to newest Tahoe versions on our side. And for the Mac applications from Shure, we've seen some, I would say, some not nice things happening. Like it bricked one of the microphones, basically unable to contact it. And then we did an installation on another machine. Still wasn't possible to contact that microphone. We changed USB cables. We changed machines. We did everything we could. And after 1 hour of testing and trying, we have multiple of them. We had another microphone put into the same console, and then everything started working with that microphone. And then we replugged the bricked microphone. It suddenly started working as well. So I'm not trusting that application 100%, but if it's working, it's working.
Ronnie, with that app, do you remember when you had that experience? Because I was looking at the release notes, and they have a recent release, version 1.8 from February of this year, which it looks like it has a lot of bug fixes. It's funny, it doesn't specify which, like if they support macOS Tahoe, but it just says macOS 13 plus or higher. So I have to assume if they're going to say that they do support the latest operating systems. It looks like they also now support Windows ARM-based PCs. So I'm just curious, was that experience last year or is that more recent?
Oh, as well, last week. So we used the latest one. So I think they have a lot of bugs to take care of, and they have made most of them. And they might have introduced another one. One of the weird things we saw when you are in advanced mode and you add the microphone to the mixer, which is kind of in the left part, sometimes it shows the DSP settings icon, sometimes it does not. So there are some really, really weird bugs in that version we used. And this is on Mac on Tahoe. So it could be anything from USB trouble to I don't know. There is something wrong, and I hope they get fixed. That they get it fixed soon. In the meantime, I will be sending some bug reports and see if I can help.
Yeah, and hopefully it doesn't take 6 months for them to fix it, because I noticed, but the timeline, the gap between this version and the last one was a long time. It looks like September 2025, and then they posted another update in February. So I don't know how big their software development team is, but I think you're right. You know, a lot of these microphone companies that I find, you know, that are typically live in the analog world, their DNA is analog microphones, and then they try to make digital products. I often find myself like just being very frustrated with a lot of these software-based applications. I'm not trying to pick just on Shure, but a lot of companies that try to do this, I find their software development sort of is lagging behind a little bit. I'm confident they'll fix these issues in the end, but yeah, it's always something to think about and deal with, especially if you're sending stuff out to clients. You want to make sure that it's going to be as reliable as possible. So Let's go to the next question.
Next one comes from Jason Robert Shaw in Sarasota, Florida. He has an OBS question. The iPad is coming in as a video device. I want to use a luma key on that source in some scenes when using BroadBoard, but not in others. What is the cleanest way to set that up in OBS?
You know, I'm not sure if any of us are OBS experts, and I haven't used OBS in years. So Jason, unless somebody else raises their hand in the next minute or so, we might have to send that question back to you and bring that in on another day when we've got other panelists that can answer that for you. And of course, remember, you can always reach out to the community in Discord. We have a fantastic Discord community. So Jason, if you don't know how to get in there, we'll mention that later where you can find that information. I encourage you to do that. And actually, speaking of that, I might as well do that announcement now. If you are not part of this community, you can ask questions on this show live right now. And to do that, you got to use our Q&A system called Makana, and you can post those questions. You can vote them up and down. It's kind of like Reddit, basically, and it tells us how you want us to answer these in terms of priority. And of course, you can also have a lot of fun in the live chat. There's lots of questions and lots of people chatting right now. So you can do that by going to officehours.global/join. That's officehours.global/join. Just put in your name and email address. You'll get all the links on how to join the community, including Discord as well. That's where you'll find that. All right, let's move to the next question, Dave.
Next one comes from a guy named Alexander Knight who lives in Port Coquitlam, BC. For Courtney specifically, have you ever built a T-Power to 48-volt phantom power converter? If so, what parts did you need?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, I haven't built one that goes in that direction from T-Power to 48. Are you looking to go from 48 to T-Power? In other words, a 48-volt phantom mixer to a T-powered microphone.
Yeah, that's exactly. I should have been more specific. Yeah, that's exactly what.
Yeah, because you could go either way. This is one I built with, and these are kind of hard to find. I think this is a Switchcraft barrel that is male to female, which is not too common a adapter because, you know, male to female gets you right back where you were. So because it's not a gender changer, it's just a gender extender. But anyway, inside here is a tiny circuit board that I found through about 10 or 15 years ago, through a contact on a message board somewhere of a guy in Russia who was making the boards. And it's a teeny little circuit board the size of your thumbnail. And you have to be very good at micro soldering to solder the input wires and the output wires onto that board. And then fit it carefully inside the little gap that's between the back of the female and the back of the male connector inside the barrel. But it does work. And if you don't want to do all that work, then you could just go to PSC and buy one for $41. So
right.
48 volts.
Spend hours trying to figure that, trying to put that together.
And the guy in Russia, I don't think he exists anymore. Yeah, the FPSC 0010A is the adapter number from PSC. You can get them at True Audio. I have some of those, and then but I wanted to make some smaller ones. Mine's a lot smaller, a little bit smaller, about a half an inch smaller than the PSC one. But it's really hard to do, and I think I bunged one up.
Right.
And I have one more board left over that I haven't put into one because I'm afraid to try it. But I have two of them that I did build myself, and they do work quite well. That convert that 48 volts to 12 volts T. You do have to be careful, though, because 12 volt T powering, unlike 48, is polarized. So you have to determine whether your microphone, your T-Power, and they made T-Power microphones in red dot and normal, and I can't remember which way is which, but one of those had power on pin 2 and ground on pin 3, and not ground, but negative on pin 3. And the other one had power plus on pin 3 and negative on pin 2. So depending upon the phase of your microphone, you had to be careful because you'd reverse the voltage. So you got to find out if your microphones are red dot or not, and what the polarity is on them before you wire up these converters. So be cautious, because 48 volts,
right.
It didn't matter, because in 48 volt Phantom, it's 48 volts on both pin 2 and 3, and negative is on ground. So
And when you put that tiny little circuit board that's going in there, how are you just putting hot glue on that thing to hold it in there? Like what's
What I did is
securing?
I soldered some wire wrap wire, if you're familiar with that stuff, which is insulated wire, but it's very fine wire on each of the connectors, and I then soldered those wire wrap wires to the pins on either side of the connectors, and then and before I did that, I put a piece of heat shrink tubing over the circuit board and shrunk it down so it insulates it from the inside metal of the thing. And you can't really, and it's hard. You have to put enough extra wire in there, and you have to solder it in there while you're assembling the thing. So it's not easy because you got to be able to pull out one of the ends of the connectors and unsolder one side so you can pull the board out the other side. So it's very tricky.
Yeah, these little adapters, it kind of reminds me of low impedance to high impedance unbalanced connectors. People, because I sell these things all the time, and people ask me, why does this little female XLR to 1/4 inch thing cost $40? And it's because of the transformer and how much of a pain it is to put that inside that tiny little barrel connector. So I think I have more appreciation now for that too, knowing how challenging it can be to work inside that tiny little space that you got there. All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's go to the next question.
The next one's from Chris Knobloch, who's on the panel today from Landstuhl, Germany. At the Olympics, drone operators keep their batteries warm in a heated cooler before swapping them out. How does everyone keep their batteries warm in cold weather?
All right, Courtney, go ahead.
Well, you can get one of those little beer koozies. A beer cooler that holds a 6-pack of beer. You can get them from almost any, convenience store during the summer. And they're big enough to hold batteries. And you don't want something too big because you want it to contain the heat. And then you got to get you some hand warmers. And we used to have, back in the olden days, we had the John E. hand warmer, which looked like a giant Zippo lighter. I don't think they still make these, but it was a catalytic heater. You put some naphthalene in here, which was their special fuel, which was basically cigarette lighter fluid. And it had this little, I think it was asbestos. Maybe that's why they don't sell them anymore. Wick right here, and you light that and let it burn down, and then it just glows red, and then you slide the cover over the top of it, and it'll stay warm for many hours. But these days, so you put one of those in the ice chest, and it wouldn't get hot enough to melt because it fits inside the little thing. These days we use these reusable click instant heat phase change. It has a special phase change fluid in there and a little clicker, and you click the little clicker and it changes from a liquid to a solid and gives off heat, and they're rechargeable. You can put them in the fridge and recharge them, I think, or boil them. I can't remember whether you boil them or put them in the fridge to reset them. Depends. They make them for cold and for hot, so that they do the opposite thing. But you can get 4 or 5 of them for $10, and you can put those in there, and they will give off heat for about an hour or so. And once it heats up the inside of that little ice chest, it'll keep your batteries toasty for a while. I had this problem working on a commercial in Alaska in the middle of a frozen lake in January, up north of north of Juneau. And it was 22 below, and I wish I'd put my cables in because I had long audio cables, and I rolled them out into the snow and did the scene. And I went to wrap it back up, and I picked up one end of the cable, and the whole cable comes up off the ground for about 20 feet. It was one long, straight, frozen cable. And I had to thaw it out a foot at a time in order to wrap it up and put it in my bag. So, yeah, it's very important to keep your batteries warm. We had to keep our batteries warm. We also had to keep the film warm because you don't want it breaking on you when it becomes brittle if it does become frozen. So we would have to do that as well. But a hand warmer and ice chests are the way to go.
All right. And Ronnie?
Yeah, so we are used to these problems in the Arctic. During the winter time, it's always below zero. And if you're going out on a job, you have to have some form of warm thing for your batteries. not only in the Olympics. This goes for everything. And if you don't have something that can warm your batteries or keep them warm, so normally we bring them out of our warm cars, and we used to have them inside our pockets if this is a short job. If it's a longer job, you need some form of heating, and what Courtney said is these Camo hand warmers. You just break the thing inside and it starts heating itself. That is a good way to do. And the idea they are using in the Olympics with these kind of mobile cooling with these what is it called? Let me see here. Thermoelectric elements. I have one of those coolers myself, and you just use them on 12 volts, and if you
Peltier heater.
Yeah, correct. And you just change the polarization of the plug, and it's cooling. And if you turn it the other way around, so plus is minus and minus is plus, the Peltier element is changing direction and starts heating things up. So just make sure that you are not heating it too much. But if you're on a really cold environment, I don't think that is a big problem. So use whatever you have in hand, but keep your batteries warm. If not, the things that can happen, especially with drones, don't ask me how I know. I was on a client job and wasn't making sure that the battery that was sitting in the drone for a little bit too long was getting really, really cold, and I had a flight time of 2 minutes, and then it went down to the ground, uncontrolled. No one got hurt, but my feelings got hurt, and the drone was destroyed. So that's another thing that can happen.
And let's go to the next question.
Guy Cochran's up next with Seattle, Washington. And when someone says they can hear the difference between a Yamaha and a Behringer, what kind of nuances are they hearing in these golden ears and audio experience?
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, first and foremost, you will hear the scream when you pay the invoice. That is one of the sounds that you will definitely hear, even if you don't have golden ears. Now, to answer a little bit responsible, I think actually Behringer has gotten a little bit bad reputation from previous. I think the X32 is actually sounding pretty good. It's not the best out there in that price class, of course, but they are using cheaper components, cheaper build quality, etc. So I think most of the bad reputation Behringer has gotten is due to not being as stable as some of the opponents. And we have had Yamaha mixers as well that has failed us. But that is not kind of the thing that this question is all about. I feel that Behringer X32 or similar, they miss some liveliness in the sound. It's hard for me that doesn't have golden ears to pinpoint the exact thing, but I feel the preamps are a little bit different, and they sure are from brand to brand, and it could be subjective. So if some person have that kind of preferences to listen to Behringer and feel that sounds good, I think that is some of the explanation. But I feel that in specific, Yamaha has a more warmth to it. It has a different type of EQ on the preamps, and it definitely takes more beating than a few of the X32s I've been testing. So we've stopped using X32 not because of the sound quality, but more about the build quality, and that we need to be able to trust them for anything we do. And they get some rough treatment in our lorries and cars. So that's the main reason. And I think most musicians and most normal people would not be able to tell the difference in a blind test. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, I have some pretty strong opinions on mic preamps as someone that does live sound. When we talk about Behringer, if we talk or Yamaha or any specific brand, we should also probably call out specific models, because remember, these two companies specifically in this question, Guy, they have huge product lineups, and these consoles on the low end and the high end sometimes have different components, different circuitry, different preamps, which have different characteristics, right? So, for example, like Ronnie was talking about the X32, so that has a specific type of preamp. But then if you look at the newer consoles from Behringer, like the Wing console, has a total different preamp design, much newer, and those are from the Midas Pro series. And those preamps, if you actually would put a Wing console right next to an X32, hopefully you can find somebody that has a Wing console to do this, you will hear one thing, a dramatic drop in the noise floor. So those Midas Pro preamps are definitely quieter. Like if you take the mic, you put it at the same levels, gain them up exactly, you'll notice a difference. And also every mic preamp tends to have a sweet spot and a certain timbre that's ideal. And this is why gain staging is so critical too. And most of these digital consoles I find tend to have fairly transparent preamps up to a point, but they all sort of have a sweet spot. Even the higher end stuff like Digicos, which Digicos tend to be very, very transparent. There's actually a video you can find. I'll have to go through my YouTube history to find it. But Ken Van Druten, the front of house engineer for Iron Maidens, talked about this because he mixes on a Digico ST7, and he said that the preamps on those consoles are fairly transparent, but he likes to use his ears, and he'll gain those preamps up to the point where he feels that they sound best, and then he'll use the digital trim to gain it down and to get the fader resolution and the metering right. So that's also another thing that a lot of people miss is they'll gain mic preamps up only to reach that level that they want to calibrate their meters at, but then they're actually losing fidelity because the preamp is not at that optimal gain stage. So those are all critical things. But yes, in short, there are differences, and you really kind of have to hear it. I'm not sure I buy that, Ronnie, that most people in a blind test would not be able to tell the difference, because I don't know anyone that's really doing blind tests. But I mean, I've done tests with other things like other equipment like speakers, to people that are not audiophiles, people that are not musicians necessarily, but just anyone. And when you try to ask them, can you hear differences? Usually most people will be able to hear some kind of difference between them. They may not be able to articulate it all well, but usually you can hear some kind of difference. Let's go to the next question.
All right. This one's from Mark Giuliani in Washington, D.C. We're trying to convert our live radio shows to podcasts. We skim over-the-air audio to WAV files every hour. Is there an app that can automatically pull out the embedded news, traffic, weather, sports, and advertising?
Man, that would really be useful. Courtney, what do you think?
Well, Mark, that is a tall order because, especially if your stations, and I know they are, talk radio, because determining the difference between a live read ad and and part of a hosted talk radio show is quite difficult, because you got to be aware of the context of what is being spoken and knowing whether that's an advertiser or whether that's just the person that's hosting the show, waxing on poetically about his favorite product, etc. Now, I use, there is such a thing that is crowdsourced, but I don't know about for radio. I use SmartTube Next as my client on Android, which is this, it removes all of the commercials from YouTube. So it's SmartTube. It only works, of course, on Android televisions, Android TVs, and Android phones. And it works great because it is crowdsourced, and it once something is posted on YouTube, especially if it's something that's fairly popular, I don't know, somebody goes in there and marks every time somebody does a self-promotion, like, remember to hit that bell and subscribe because, I need your, and it'll just jump right over those when it's playing back. And it also jumps over, it also locks out any of YouTube's inserted pre-roll commercials, mid-roll commercials, post-roll commercials. Those are all gone too. So you can watch your YouTube without any commercials and or any live reads. But they have to be posted for a while, I've noticed, before it'll skip over them. So somebody's going in there, listening to it, marking it. So I think your only choice is to load that WAV file into your favorite audio workstation and go through and mark them and hit delete, and then convert it to MP3 and then upload it. That's probably going to be your best bet. I don't know of anything that would do that automatically, especially if it's talk radio and the similar voices are doing the commercials, that it would be able to spot them. Unless, of course, you run such a precise radio show that the breaks are all timed to the second. And if your breaks are all timed to the second, you could write a program to go in and cut out those little breaks that are put in there. But if you're not timing your shows that closely, you're on your own.
Ronnie?
We did something that might be an idea to test out. So we have this venue here in our city that we are sending audio to, and the audio system in the venue is having the settings for the gate is too high. So if we play really low background music, it tends to cut everything out because it just thinks it's over and shut down everything to prevent noise coming out. And what we did, or one of our engineers did, was to just add a constant, really, I think it was like 2 hertz or 5 hertz audio with a pretty high level that is obviously not being heard through the PA. But this is enough for the processor to think that there is a signal coming in. So what if you just made a short sound bite, which is really outside the hearing area, like up in the 18 to 20 kilohertz area, or maybe 2 or 3 kilohertz, and encode that in a way that you say, this is the start of the commercial, this is the end of the commercial, and then just have an AI listen for that and do the rest automatically. Just an idea.
And Mark?
That's a really good idea, because when I went to AI and asked it how to do this, it said you're going to have a lot of trouble with all of the audio that is live read. And when it's live read, the AI there's nothing out there at this point in time that will be able to distinguish the live read commercials from everything else. So my other question is, we have an older analog board that only has 4 outs. So I'm wondering if this is an excuse to get a newer digital board where we may be able to do some way of the audio chain so that the commercials don't show up in the recording. Anybody run an audio board a while back and know how you might be able to run that audio chain?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Another thing you can do if you always have a live announcer that's assembling or doing these shows is you could just have a separate recorder running, and that whenever they go into a commercial, they hit pause on the recorder. And there are several recorders out there that will let you pause a continuously recording file and then start it again. So just do that and put a big button up there like a cough button, and you tell the person who's running the show, right before you go into the commercial, you hit pause, and it puts a big red light up so that they can see it, that they know that they're paused. And then when the commercial's done, they click the button again, it goes back into record, and they're then assembling an edited version of the show as they go, just by hitting the pause button. That might be the easiest way, but you do have to have a live person there to use their brain to hit the button, you know.
We'll have to keep it away from the dump button, or else the advertisers won't want to pay us.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, just building on what Courtney said, and of course what Mark said, there should be no reason why you shouldn't be able to buy new equipment. That's the first thing. So any reason to buy anything new, just to get it on paper and have the money and budget approved. The other thing is that what Courtney said just got me to think, you can have just 2 different buses going out. So you have one program that goes out to the transmitter, etc., or whatever. And the other one that you are recording the podcast on is an aux mix, which is just taking the content that you actually would have in the podcast, excluding what lines are coming in or channels are coming in from the other playout devices that are doing the commercials, etc. That way you will have a recording which contains a lot of talking, a lot of content, music, and then it will be containing a silent part. And having something cut out a silent part is really easy.
Let's go to the next question.
The next one is from Josh Kaufman in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Sorry about that. One Hotel XLR house mix feed advice for 2 devices, Focusrite Scarlett, to a computer, I presume, and RODECaster video. What line level input pathing or equipment is recommended?
So, Josh, it sounds like you want to take just a stereo house mix and split it. Radial does make a bunch of line-level solution boxes for this. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I've done this actually a few times where I've had to hook up a truck to a house mix and then use it as background feed. And really, it's a split. You have a Y splitter, and Courtney can give you one from his Amazon magic. And then you send it to the Focus Scarlett, and they still get their feed through to their PA system or amps. So you catch it right at now the board, whatever board they're using, should be able to give you an aux mix out, which is separate, and maybe they don't do it very often, and you can show it to them. And then they'll give you a clean feed, not the same level as what they're doing for the house. So if they're mixing the inputs all the way through, you're getting that through the aux. But if they're not mixing the inputs and they're just sort of riding the levels, you'll probably get a ride level out of it too. And then you won't have to monitor too closely. But line level is line level. So you sort of put a tone through the whole process and see the line levels, set the meters where you think it's comfortable, and then work with that level through the output. But if they can't generate a tone, then you'll have to bring your own.
Yeah, and Josh, just in the chat, I don't know if you're there, but I just posted a link to Radial's product page, which has all their line-level splitter devices. I recommend those over just a Y cable because they usually use Jensen transformers. So you want to really have that transformer isolated split.
Absolutely, because you don't want hum coming in through that mix. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And Courtney?
Yeah, and be aware that if you do a transformer split, a lot of times it will drop the level considerably and split it between the two. Or there's active distribution amplifiers as well. There's a company called Stick-On that makes these extremely expensive distribution amplifiers, audio distribution amps. So you got an input and you got up to 4 outputs there, and it is powered. And so it uses amplification to maintain your signal level unity gain coming back out. But like everyone says, it can be a source of hum getting into your system, so be careful about that. The stick-ons would be transformerless, but there's the transformer method of splitting. But remember, your signal voltage is going to probably drop to probably half what it was coming in. So you might
I've seen a 3 dB drop whenever I've done that too. Yeah.
Next question.
This one's from Alexander Knight again in Port Coquitlam. Hotel Wi-Fi security. What's a portable travel router Wi-Fi access point that is currently in stock that I can take with me to Japan, or should I use a VPN?
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I'm not an expert in Japan, but I've been to 6 different cities. I found their Wi-Fis are really good, and I got really fast speeds out of most of the hotels I stayed in. I would recommend doing hotspot with 5G because 5G is pretty much universally available across anywhere you might go except the high mountains. So I don't know if a VPN would solve your problem for you, but for security purposes, I would just stick with my 5G because then it's coming through a device that you have control over and not using the Wi-Fi up on the wall.
And Ronnie.
Yeah, so last time me and my wife were traveling out of Norway, we just used a GL iNet. I think that was the 1300 or maybe the 1800 series. And when there was bad Wi-Fi, I did exactly what Dave suggested. I just tethered my iPhone to that and all my devices in the room, like my wife's laptop and phones and iPads, etc., just connected to the router. And when we were moving around from place to place, we could bring that the GL iNet router and just have it connected to the local Wi-Fi if that is connected. So the GL iNet, for those that doesn't know, that's a travel router which has both Ethernet connection, it has a Wi-Fi connection, It also has tethering options, and it can actually also have a 5G or 4G dongle or USB-A dongle connected to it. So there's 4 different types, and you can prioritize them, and you can even have them use the one that is the strongest signal on. And you can also use some different built-in VPN services into that, and just have everything behind that being accessible through your own VPN system if that is needed. We use that in our travel boxes or the cases where we have some equipment like Stream Decks and Macs, etc., that needs to be connected to each other inside the system we bring, and just connected either through Wi-Fi in waiting for the cable to be rolled out to us, and we can start working as soon as we are on the table, even with a phone connected with a tether cable. So just bring your own tether cables and you will be good. And then Ubiquiti also has released this new travel router. I haven't had the pleasure of testing that. It is on my wish list though, so if the money is there and the budget is approved, I will probably buy a few of those as well and test. And they also have these professional ones that are really, really cool. So have a look around, but the GLA iNet is definitely working and has been for a long time for us.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Next question.
Next up is Douglas Carmichael. He's asking, are there any Mac OS DAWs that don't interrupt audio when adding or deleting tracks or instantiating plugins? Cubase does, and it can be annoying when generating ideas for a project.
You know, I wouldn't have a reason to do that because normally I set up my sessions the way I want. So I've never heard of anyone wanting to create tracks while in the middle of doing something. And, you know, I don't know. Maybe there is one that can do that. I've never tried that with Pro Tools. I'm more of a Pro Tools user. But remember, you're putting a big load on the system. It's doing a lot. And every audio engine in these DAWs are going to be handling audio differently. Cubase has their own proprietary audio engine. So does Pro Tools. They built their own as well. So your mileage may vary from DAW to DAW. You may want to also try a free trial of the PreSonus Studio One software, which seems in my limited testing to have a pretty good audio engine, and it seems to be not as intensive as some other digital audio workstations that have a lot more legacy code kind of hanging on, and that maybe you'll get better results with that. Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, one thing you could try is Audacity. It's free to download. It's open source. It accepts plugins. I haven't tried it to see whether you do. Once you install a plugin, you have to restart the program. So, yeah, that would interrupt you. But once that plugin is installed, you can then initialize it. But if you're deleting tracks, I kind of think most recording type digital audio workstations would want to stop whatever's incoming because they're going to change the track assignment and track alignment, track assignment and construction of the output format. So it's probably going to have to stop if you're going to change the number of tracks that are going to your record output. Maybe it could do it for maybe stuff that's designed for live mixing can. Give Audacity a try. It's free. And it's cross-platform, so it should work on macOS and Windows and Linux.
Next question.
Next question is from Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam. Friends of the show, Bitrig, have launched a Mac app to allow you to vibe code apps and preview how they'll operate on iOS and compile them. Have you built anything with their iOS app, and thoughts on this service? A little link there to Bitrig.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting because, you know, I've been playing with the iOS app, and it was free for a while. Now you got to pay, I think, $25 a month for it. But I built a little app. It's not complete yet, but it really blew me away that really in a couple of minutes after prompting, I had a fully functioning compiled iOS app on my phone. And I'm just fascinated that we can now use these services to build tools to solve very, very specific niche problems. So I just wanted to bring that up to everybody in the community, because if you have tried it, I mean, having the ability to compile a Mac app and be able to have a version that you can also import into Xcode and also see how it's going to work and operate directly on the device before you submit it to Apple is very, very impressive. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, I've tested it for some time and built some demo or prototypes or MVPs, as we call them, minimal viable products. And it's kind of cool sitting in the car, or as a passenger, obviously, or in the bus to work, etc. Commuting forth and back and just using your phone to kind of prototype an ID while you're at or on the road. I tend to be more comfortable in front of a little bigger surface like desktop machines, etc. when I'm doing a lot of coding, because I need to have all the windows open at the same time. And Bitrig, I think the proposal is that you can make stuff really, really quick using only your iPhone, and then you can take it to another level by just transferring that project onto your machine and continue development on that, if it's more advanced than the Bitrig app itself. So just understand that the Bitrig does not utilize all the different APIs that Apple has on the iOS platform, so it's kind of limited, but it's a really, really cool approach, and building easy stuff is really easy, and they work just in a few seconds. So if you haven't tested it, you should test it, and if you're building really, really advanced stuff, just take the starting point and put it into Xcode and continue building there, and just use Bitrig as the kind of first step.
All right, next question.
This one's from Peter Sargent in Round Rock, Texas. macOS provides a tool to determine PCIe bus loading on a Mac Pro. What is the equivalent on a Windows or Linux system?
All right, Mark, go ahead.
Okay, so for a Windows system, there is a product I haven't used in a long time, GPU-Z, which if you have a graphics card will tell you information about the PCIe slots. I'm not sure that it works on Linux.
Okay, there's your answer. Next question.
It's from James Fosling in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I have an MP4 video that does not play audio in VLC. That's a free player app. Play softly in QuickTime, Resolve, or Final Cut Pro will not transcribe. Audio can be brought up to the red. Don't quite know what is.
Well, yeah, this is one of those examples of something that probably was encoded strangely. I don't know what kind of codecs were used for this, but what I would suggest, James, is that you use a tool to transcode this file and see if you can get it working. There are free tools that are cross-platform, like Shutter Encoder. I would recommend that. It's incredibly powerful, and you can have it transcode to whatever file format you need to work in your nonlinear editor. So I would check out Shutter Encoder and see if you get it working. Let us know if you got any luck with that. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael returns with his question. There have been famous cases of lawyers sanctioned for use of unverified AI output. Do you think we'll see journalists sanctioned for doing the same?
I don't know. I haven't been following this stuff closely, but I mean, the rules are, man, we're going to have to probably have some laws. I don't know how you're going to control all of this. Things are going to get probably really bad before they get better. Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, if they wander into the area of libel, then the person that the hallucination has been made up about may sue you, and so there's always that the capability of a civil lawsuit involved. As far as the government, our government is very, litigious lately, and they're looking for any reason to sue anybody that broadcasts anything they don't like. So be careful, because lawyers can't sue just about anything. I'd be fairly careful in using AI-generated stuff without vetting fairly carefully before it's broadcast or aired or posted somewhere, because you could be held liable if you created it if you wrote the thing and posted it, I think. I don't know if Section 203 covers you in that respect, holds you immune from lawsuit for something that you didn't post, because you can say, hey, the AI did it. It wasn't me. So I don't know. I don't know if that particular excuse has been tested in court.
Go ahead, Mark.
It's always the battle. Do you want to be first to get the story out, or do you want to get the right story out? So most editorial staffs want to see more than one source. AI would be the first source. You've got to also kind of challenge the AI. Where did you hear this? What are the sources? Is this the right story before you go to press?
And Chris.
I know that within journalism, that a lot of the news stations, a lot of the networks, especially the networks, because they've been coming under an increased amount of scrutiny, especially within the last, since last January, that they've employed a lot of check boxes and extra roadblocks if they do use it. Although it seems to be pretty scarce. I know that on the DoD side, like if you actually are within like a general DoD system, they've only just recently released, and we didn't even know this was happening, basically an AI suite that allows you to do something similar to ChatGPT, although currently only Gemini is the only option. And I simply just tried to take a basic spreadsheet that I did in ChatGPT, took the exact commands over to Gemini, and it didn't even come close. So obviously, be very aware of what you're doing, what you're using, and it's basically a lot of the time is who are you working with when you're using it.
And go ahead, Dave.
Well, I thought I would contrast that lawyers using unverified AI can change the law by having references that don't exist, and then they become a precedent in the next use of that case. So they always refer back in law to previous cases that authorize them to make rulings in certain ways. Not so with journalists. Journalists get away with making mistakes. They have to write a correction or an apology, and that sort of thing is the consequences for journalists. The consequences for professions, like doctors and lawyers, is disbarment and not being trusted by a judge. So I think in the sense that this is a new thing that we are trying to decide if it should be regulated or it shouldn't, journalists have a little latitude, but as Courtney says, if a journalist is relying on AI, his work is going to stand out, and the editorial board are going to go, who wrote this really? And that's happened when people have pretended to tell a story that's not true, and then they get kicked out of the whole profession for, making stuff up. They don't need AI to make stuff up. So if a journalist can be sanctioned, it's usually they lose their job. With lawyers, they can be disbarred. But even medical professionals are finding that some of the AI is giving them the wrong information, and so they don't rely on it as thoroughly. And they have to do the homework that everybody else should be doing to make sure that what you're reading and seeing can be verified. And unverified was in your question, and that was the clue for me.
Next question.
This one's from Tommy Schatz in St. Paul, Minnesota. My GH2 Main cam in my house of worship has turned blue on me twice now. Time to retire it? With what?
Ah, yes, the GH series. I have a GH5S. I love that camera.
Is it this is a chip camera, right? This is not a tube camera. So the green is not processing, and you're getting a blue signal. I think it might be time to take it in to look at, because only a professional opens it up and test all the circuitry. And then you can see whether or not, yes, if it's been, dropped or otherwise burned out, or even overheated, maybe that's why it's turning blue.
Go ahead, Courtney.
I guess he's talking about the Lumix GH2, DMC GH2 from Panasonic. Yeah, it could be. I don't know if it allows a LUT to be inserted, and maybe that's what's going on. Or the debarring program that is generating your output out of that GH2 is a problem. Or it could just be the cable. Check your cable, because it could be that HDMI cable is dropping the blue connector. out. So, when you bend those cables, a lot of times one of the connectors, one of the cables will just become broken, and sometimes it'll make contact and sometimes it won't, depending upon how you hold the cable. So wiggle the cable, check and see if the blue goes away. If that's the problem, then change the cable. Good alternative is the one that you're looking at right now is a Canon M50 Mark II. It's fairly cheaply under $1,000 for the kit lens. And I've been using it here for about 3 or 4 years on this show, and I leave it on all the time. Its HDMI output looks good at 1080p, and I have not had any problems with it at all. It does not overheat or time out with a dummy battery in it.
Yeah, I agree with Courtney. Check all the basics. First thing I do is replace the cable, see if that fixes it. And, you can reuse your existing Micro Four Thirds glass if you upgrade to the new GH7, which now has the new hybrid phase detect autofocus, and it works incredibly well. It's a very impressive camera. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, if you have other Panasonics in your house of worship, you should probably continue using Panasonic to prevent any color changes when you go to another brand. If this is a single camera, of course you can choose freely. The times I've seen HDMI outputs go blue is when the plug is disconnected. So if this is a camera that is being constantly put up and taken down and set up again, that is probably a HDMI plug that has gone sour on you. What we tend to use for cameras that are being used frequently in and out of productions is to add kind of a 10 centimeters or 2-3 inches of cable that are connected into the camera all the time, and then only use the secondary plug on that interface to plug in and out the longer cables. That way you can change the plug in the camera every year or so and make sure that you have a connector in the camera that is taken care of all the time. So that is a good idea for the new camera. And I know friends of the community and people in the community are using a lot of the BGH1s, which is a box camera. It has its own things that you need to be aware of, but a box camera in this situation that is unmanned, etc., is probably also a good idea to look into. And I think the lenses can be replaced directly on that housing as well. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and one last thing, Tommy, one thing I recommend, because I see a lot of churches that use these cameras too, and you really should put a cage on the camera, because I see churches that have these HDMI cables dangling off. All this weight from the cable is now pulling on that jack over the years, just slowly pulling on that jack that's attached to the circuit board. It's really, really bad for it. So if you want to, assuming it's just something simple like the cable and you can get it working again, if you want to extend the life of that camera, I would seriously look at getting a cage. Small Rig has a cage that will fit those cameras. And then I would also get one of these Small Rig adapters to go from micro HDMI to full-size HDMI. It's got 2 1/4-20 holes here, so you can just bolt this into the cage and take the strain off the actual jack and then adapt it to a full-size HDMI, and that should also help you out. All right, let's go to the next question.
This one's from Alan McPherson in Ontario, Canada. Can the latest iPad models be used for remote contribution and double-ended recording? Are there USB external microphone considerations?
The new iPads, I believe they now have double-ended recording, but I don't have an iPad to test it, so I don't have much to say about this, but I know people have done it, and as far as USB external microphones, you can absolutely use a class-compliant USB interface or USB class-compliant microphone. Class-compliant basically means, it's a fancy term for something that does not require external drivers to be installed on that device to work, because you can't do that anyways on iOS devices. So for class-compliant devices, you got so many choices nowadays, but if you just wanted a microphone that you can plug straight into the iPad, the Shure MV6 is a really, really good sounding microphone that's incredibly cost effective. I think it's about $150, and Shure throws in a little tabletop mic stand with it as well, and it's got all the DSP processing. Ronnie uses those mics. He talked about it earlier in the show, and I'm sure he has more to say because he wants to chime in. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we started using that a long time ago. So it's not only the newest iPads that can take a USB microphone, as long as it is class compliant. Just make sure you have an interface. So if you are using the single USB plug for a microphone, make sure that you also have another solution for when the iPad goes out of battery, because it will pretty soon, because that's the only power source for the microphone. So you need to be able to have some kind of hub in between here, and those are in many different sizes and qualities. Make sure you choose a hub and test it thoroughly, because you need to add power to that. Maybe you even have one with Ethernet connectivity, so they don't have to rely on Wi-Fi for this connectivity. And of course, these hubs, if they are doing a lot of stuff, sometimes they include a HDMI output that you have to a second screen. So there are a lot of options that you can do. But as Mickey says in the chat, iPads are made for something, and you shouldn't really try to make an iPad do a lot of stuff it's not meant to do. For that, there are other options that are much better. But for when you're in a pinch, I have this lavalier, which is delivered by Sennheiser. It has a USB in the other end, and that is really a nice solution for getting up and running and just put the iPad in front of me if I'm in a pinch. Normally, I have more equipment with me that is more suitable for the job I need to be doing. So just play with it and make sure that you test everything thoroughly before you go out and start using it.
That'll wrap our Saturday show. Thanks to all the panelists for bringing your A game this morning and joining us and answering all these questions. We appreciate it. Everyone's got such a diverse background, and we really appreciate all your input. And of course, to you, the people watching this show right now, you, the producers, as we like to call you, because you put in these questions, you kind of dictate how this show is going to turn out. So if we have no questions, we got no show. So I appreciate you all chatting here and watching this morning. And, of course, the back-end crew that wakes up every single day to put this show on. It's an incredible amount of work, and can't thank you enough for what you do on this show. If we were to travel around the world to answer all of these questions, it would have been, according to the Talala Traversal, it would have been 31,000 miles, that's 50,000 kilometers, and 247 million bananas for scale. That scale right there, that's Ronnie is holding up right now. That's what we're talking about. All right, and if you have a little bit of time, you can always join us in After Hours. That's a meeting. You can find the links in the emails if you signed up for that. And, of course, coming up right after this show in 30 minutes, we have a panelist meeting, and then at 9 o'clock, Pacific Standard Time, we also have our new panelist meeting. So if you haven't joined the show before, you're not sure how you want to participate and what you want to do on the show, please join us for those meetings. And again, you'll find those in the links if you've signed up. All right. We'll see ya. Bye-bye.
Ronnie, is that a South American or an African banana? Or is perhaps a Chinese-made blow mold?
This is from Las Vegas, in fact, when we were joining the community. And I think it was one of the late community members that actually got them to the site where we were. You were there? No, Bill was there, and a lot of other people were there. So this is a Las Vegas banana. And I don't know.
It's calibrated then.
Yeah. It's exactly.
It's verified.
Verified.
It's exactly
U.S. Department of Standards. Yes.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.